Greetings. How are you doing? I've been through this book so many times. I've actually worn it the complete the hell out. It's falling apart. I wish he was still alive. This is Dr. Oleg D. Jefimenko. This causality, electromagnetic induction, and gravitation. Kind of an expensive book, especially considering that it's a paperback. Even as brilliant as Dr. Jefimenko was, there's a lot of fundamental things, and he's a brilliant PhD, a person of both physics and his math is impeccable. Some of his books are incredibly heavy. I have most of them. But he doesn't understand the term wave, nor does he ever define the term field. If you ever want to completely screw up a scientist, and by scientist what I really mean is mathematician, because scientists today are not scientists in the true denotative sense of Aristotelian, Pythagorean, or Platonic scientists who are in quest of the nature of truth, or cosmic mechanics, and the phenomena thereof. They believe that nothing can be studied unless it can be quantified. And of course, the one thing that would confound any mathematician, i.e. a modern scientist, is the inability to quantify something. So unless you can quantify it, you can't count it. If you can't count it, then, what's the use of studying it at all? Because a mathematician, of course, is a bean counter. And of course, no branch of science has ever defined a field, nor have they defined energy. And of course, they love speaking endlessly about waves and forces, but they never define any of those. And of course, there's no such thing as a wave. A wave is not a thing. A wave is said of something else. That's like saying you saw happiness on the street, and someone would say, "What do you mean? Who was happy?" "No, I saw happiness." "What the hell are you talking about? Are you smoking crack?" "No, I saw happiness on the street, and I saw sadness." "Who was happy and who was sad?" No. These are not things. These are things said of other things. There's no such thing as a wave. A wave is not a thing at all. A shadow is not a thing at all. This is, of course, what humans engage in constantly, and it is due to an intellectual deficiency, i.e. a lack of wisdom, not a lack of intelligence. There's a huge difference between intelligence, i.e. episteme, i.e. empirical knowledge, and wisdom. There's no such thing as a shadow. There's no such thing as emptiness. There's no such thing as a wave. A wave is not a thing at all. I love it when people say light is a wave-particle duality. Well, duality means an inherent contradiction, and no dualities in nature. A wave does not exist, and light is absolutely not a particle. Fundamentally, we all were taught at a very early age these insane things like a light bulb emits light. Like if I turn on this really powerful flashlight, well, it's emitting light. Well, it's not emitting anything. This is actually a double-sealed entity powered by two 123 batteries. It's not emitting anything. Sure it is. It's emitting light. Light is not emitted. It's a field perturbation. If somebody's in the middle of a pond and they can't swim, for example, and they start flapping their arms vigorously and they're creating waves. Waves of what? Waves in the water. Are they emitting anything? Tell me. If you're standing on the bank watching someone in the middle of a pond flapping their arms, creating waves in the water, perturbations, right, which are propagating, right, would you, if asked, say that that person is emitting anything? No, they're causing waves in the water. Nothing emits light. Every modern idiot that is caught up in quantum believes that, and this is laughably stupid, but this is actually the stuff that they espouse and teach people. And I have their books, by the way. They will tell you that a magnet is emitting virtual photons, virtual particles. These are not the inputs or outputs of any experiments ever done. It's purely a conceptual brain fart created totally out of the ether, something they don't believe in, by the way, the ether. Actually, they do believe in the ether. Ether is like saying the bunny rabbit or Jesus or God. What they are now calling the ether, since nobody can deny the ether, they're calling it quantum foam, or they're calling it quantum fluid. Completely meaningless term, the word quantum. I know its origins and its history, and this is how intelligent yet ignorant, i.e. unwise people, confound stupid people. Talking about, all you do is stick the word quantum in front of everything. Quantum this, quantum interaction, quantum superimposition. Nothing emits light. By the way, yeah, speaking of magnets, they say, well, in a magnet, we've got virtual photons being emitted, on either side of the magnet. And this is ridiculous. A magnet isn't emitting anything. And conventionally, people think, well, a magnet emits. The key word here is emission. And the denotation of the term emission is extremely stark. But a magnet does not emit anything. These are pressure gradients of the ether itself. I mean, the gyromagnetic precession, i.e. the force vector, we're talking about point source field coherency, which of course, what's the difference between a pre-magnet before it becomes a magnet and once it does become a magnet and has been magnetized, as we conventionally say? There's no difference. The difference is, of course, field coherency. One is point source and the other one is the same difference between so-called magnetic attraction, which does not exist because magnetism denotatively is force in motion. It is not inertia and acceleration. There's no such thing as magnetic attraction. The same thing idiot human beings call gravity is the same thing idiot human beings call magnetic attraction. That magnetic attraction is not magnetism based at all. What it is a centripetal, point-specific dielectric acceleration. Gravitational, which is not a force, is inertia. And I love it when people say the force of gravity. Of course, gravity is not a force at all, but gravity does not exist at all. It is a different modality of what we understand and conventionally call magnetic attraction, except in the case of gravity, i.e. mutual mass acceleration, it is incoherent or non-point source mutual mass acceleration. Ultimately, other than the nuance or the attributional nature of gravity and so-called magnetic attraction, both are one and the same thing. I would easily ask you, what's the difference between a 5-watt light bulb and a 5-watt laser? Well, a laser is coherent light. No, that's an attribute of laser. A laser specifically, in true explanation, not description, because when you say laser is coherent light, that's a description, not an explanation. A laser specifically is point source light. It doesn't matter if it's a chemical laser or an LED laser or a helium neon laser, i.e. gas tube laser. It's point source light. People think, well, light is a single beam. Like, no, there's collimating lenses actually on those lasers. I mean, I grew up playing with lasers and collecting and buying lasers. I'm a bit of a science geek myself, but what's the difference between a 5-watt light bulb and a 5-watt laser? They're both 5 watts. 5 watts is 5 watts, right? Well, a 5-watt light bulb is useless, but a 5-watt laser will burn a hole in your ass or permanently blind you. What's the distinction between the two? Well, the same distinction between so-called gravity and so-called magnetic attraction, which is not magnetism-based at all. One is point source dielectric acceleration, i.e. centripetal convergence, and is also mutual mass acceleration. In this case, one is point source, in which case it is not additive but multiplicative. There is no distinction between so-called gravity, which does not exist, and that very same thing that human beings call magnetic attraction. These are pressure gradients in the ether. To ignorantly think that something emits light, like this flashlight here, or anything like the sun, is absolutely ignorant. This, by the way, is also something, too, that even Walter Russell said. Nothing emits light. What it does is it sets up a perturbation in the ether. If I were to nail a rope to the wall over there and were to hold the other end of the rope here, and I were to actually whip it really fast, and you would, of course, see a wave, i.e. perturbation in the rope, propagate. Is the rope moving? Well, sure, it's moving up and down. No, that's the perturbation in the rope. Is the rope actually moving? No, of course not. You've actually put a disturbance or a pressure gradient in the rope, and you see this wave, this transverse wave propagation, propagate down the end of the rope. But the rope isn't moving, right? No, of course it's not. Light does not move. There's the so-called speed of light is not a speed. Of course, we, as ignorant human beings, well, speak for yours, I'm not speaking for myself, but everybody else, light does not move at all. There's the so-called speed of light, and Tesla said this, and Eric Dollard said this as well. It is not a speed, it's a rate of induction. The maximum rate of induction of the ether against itself, just like the speed of sound, right? Of course, stuff can go faster than the speed of sound. And the speed of sound actually, depending on the temperature and the density of the air, is faster or slower. Same thing with light. Light actually speeds down depending on the glass when it passes through glass by like 25% or so. Speed slows down through water. And of course, no scientist on Earth, if you ever want to really trip one up, say, well, how does light speed back up after it leaves glass? Because people think that something is moving, like light is an entity that is moving. Well, sure, speed of light. Now, that's a rate of induction. Doesn't mean anything is moving. It's the rate of propagation. That maximum rate of propagation is the maximum rate of propagation of any transverse phenomena, i.e. the ether against itself. Say, Mr. Scientist, how does light speed back up again after it leaves glass without breaking the law of conservation of energy? I mean, there's not more gas in the light, like there's a little person in light that like puts on the gas pedal and speeds back up again. No, I mean, everything is capacitance, resistance, magnetic permeability, dielectric permittivity. Light doesn't speed back up. Nothing is moving. It's that the propagation has changed due to either or both magnetic permeability or dielectric permittivity of the medium through which the field perturbation is occurring. In this case, glass or water or countless other things in which light, rate of induction, either speeds up or slows down. In the case of glass and water, it slows down. After it leaves it, it returns to its normal rate of propagation due to the change in the dielectric permittivity and magnetic permeability of the medium of the propagation. The ether is absolutely undeniable. Nobody can deny the ether. It's absolutely possible. Even the people that hate the word ether also employ the ether, but ether is an evil word, like saying God or the devil or something. Scientists can't use the word ether. It's the big E word. They think the word ether is like some sort of religious term. And, from their sense, that's kind of true because all forms of religion basically has been discussing the ether now for thousands of years. So what they've done is they've replaced it with quantum fluid or quantum foam or... The funny thing is that the only reason they call dark matter, and this is even by their own admission, is they call it dark because they don't know what the F it is. And they call it matter only because they're atomistic. They think everything is matter, particles, atoms. They think that Mother Nature is a crazy hooker on crack, a cross-eyed crazy hooker on crack with a bag of magic bumping particles. There's only one fundamental particle. It's proven that a neutron, after 17 minutes of being free, turns into a proton. Electrons absolutely do not exist. Is that your crazy opinion? No, I mean, it's a fact. There's no such thing as an electron. Tesla said that. James Clerk Maxwell said that. Oliver Heaviside said that. Eric Dollard said that. The greatest minds of electrical theory that built the entire universe that we know as humans, of their electrical grid, they deny there's no such thing as a charge-carrying particle. This is an absurdity. It's a brain fart of atomistic thought. I don't know if you know what atomism is, but you should look it up. It's materialism. It's fundamental metaphysical materialism. It means everything is just bumping particles, just bumping and colliding, and that's all. It's ridiculous bullshit. Everything is fields, and fields are not particles. No scientist has ever defined a field. The ancient Greek term for that word is kora. Kora. A magnet does not emit magnetism. The magnetic field that is defined, of course, magnetism is the dielectric field. Of course, the loss of the inertia or the energy of the dielectric of the nature of the matter that makes up the magnet. That loss is a field pressure gradient that we know as magnetism. It is a toroidal. The centripetal convergent, of course, is the hyperboloidal, i.e. hourglass shape. This is the two conjugate geometries of the universe. The torus and the hyperboloid, the superimposition of which one is a negative image of the other. The negative image of an hourglass is a donut, i.e. a torus. The negative images of a donut, i.e. a torus, is the hyperboloid. And by the way, if you actually do a cross-section of those two, you will end up with the explanation for the right-hand rule. Every electrician's heard of the right-hand rule. If you don't know what the right-hand rule is, look it up, right? The right-hand rule. Well, the cross-section of the conjugate geometry of the entire universe is, of course, perfect cross, by the way. Perfect cross. The torus and the hyperboloid. That's the entire universe in a nutshell. Aliens, if they landed tomorrow, would know that we're still unevolved, knuckle-dragging retards because we don't understand the fundamental principles of the universe. We don't even know the definition of the term field. What the hell is a field? Field is an ether modality perturbation. What's the difference between ice, water, and steam? You know? Now, if you're a little stupid rugrat, you think, well, that's ice over here. That's, you know, it's hard, and this is something different. That's water over here. Oddly enough, if you heat ice up, it kind of turns into water. All we've done is define different pressure states of the same goddamn thing. Ice, water, and steam are different pressure modalities or different states. Now, an idiot scientist would call them quantum states. There's a quantum state of water here is hard and solid, and this quantum state is soft and wet. And this quantum state over here is steam. It'd be hot and viscous. There's no distinction between so-called gravity, which does not exist. There's no such thing as gravity. The phenomena of gravity, of course, does exist. I'm not denying gravity. I'm saying that gravity and so-called magnetic attraction are one and the same thing. Ultimately, there are only two things. There's a dielectric and a magnetic. Electricity is phi times psi equals Q in Planck's electrification. Electricity is a hybrid of both dielectricity and magnetism. Gravity is nothing other than a modality expression of mutual mass acceleration or incoherent centripetal mutual mass acceleration. Magnetism is denotatively force in motion. It is centrifugal. There's no such thing as magnetic attraction. But due to lodestones and human beings for thousands and thousands of years playing with magnetic attraction, we know these are magnets. And when they come together like this, yeah, that must be magnetic attraction. That's bullshit that has literally existed since the times of ancient Greece and ancient Babylon. Magnetic attraction still exists today. Everybody knows what's magnetic attraction. Well, you take two magnets and they come together. That's not magnetism. You see that when you say magnetic attraction, the key word there, we will stick with attraction, okay? It's kind of pedestrian and childish. But the key word there is magnetism. That's not magnetism at all. The only thing that actually props up the visible universe of mass and magnitude is magnetism. The fight or the cosmic dance between force and motion, inertia and acceleration is magnetism and dielectricity. This is why there's no straight lines in the universe. Isaac Newton was wrong. The laws of Sir Isaac Newton, while kind of correct, are fundamentally incorrect. Talks about straight line. There's several things in Isaac. Fundamentally, we can let Sir Isaac Newton go on that one, but there are no straight lines in the universe. Everything is curvilinear. There's not a single straight line anywhere in the universe. What's a line? Well, you're going to define a line and a distinction between a line and a point, but I'm not getting into that in this video. I need to buy a new copy. Somebody could buy me a new copy. This book of mine's falling apart. This is kind of like my meditation book, because he actually quotes. It's a pretty hardcore book, actually. There's the title of it. But human beings are intellectually unevolved. There's no such thing as magnetic attraction. Gravity is nothing other than a pressure modality expression of the same thing people call magnetic attraction, which does not exist either. It's I talked about this in an earlier video. Of course, I was cutting up some foam. I don't have any foam laying around here, but you ever we're tearing foam and the foam sticking to your hand, you throw it away and you can't get rid of it. It'll fall away from your hand a little bit, then it'll jump right back to your hand. You know what I'm talking about? Electrostatic cling, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Like you're peeling your hot laundry apart and you hear the crackle of the hot laundry. You're actually inducing force between two things that want to stick together. That same electrostatic cling, to use a conventional parlance, is no different than dielectric acceleration, is no different than gravity. Everything is dielectric and electrical. Anti-gravity, and of course that's kind of stupid, is not only plausible, it's 100% and absolute undeniable. Since everything is magnetic and dielectric, so-called anti-gravity is 100% real. Absolutely 100% real. Not my opinion, not my feeling, not my belief. It's an absolute hardcore goddamn fact. That same thing, like where you rip some foam apart and you induce an electrostatic, i.e. dielectric charge between your hand and the foam, and you can't let go of it. I was doing that the other day, and I was like, I haven't mentioned this in a video in a long time. I thought to myself, I was trying to throw away the foam and it jumped back to my hand. I throw it away again, it would like come, I think it even fell this far away from my hand, about 4 or 5 inches, and it jumped right back to my hand. Like, that was kind of like one of those Three Stooges moments where you can't let go. You've had that happen before, of course. But that so-called electrostatic thing is no different than gravity. It's no different than so-called magnetic attraction, which does not exist. There's no such thing as magnetic attraction. Cosmic mechanics are far, far more simple than any scientist will ever let on, because they don't know either. They're clueless. I can assure you of one thing right now. If I'm lying, I'm dying. The fundamental primer, or in other words, as simple as a Post-it note. So simple even a child could understand it. The entire picture, the entire window of the explanation of all cosmic mechanics is more simple than if you could actually flash it into your brain instantaneously, where you could see how simple it is. It would probably, I guarantee you, it would make you cry. It's so, so, so simple. The only people that are complicating it are delusional assholes in academia with I got a PhD, I'm a PhD physicist, particle physics. Yeah, I know my shit, you're nothing but a dumbass. I got a PhD, I'm a physicist. These people are idiots. Mother Nature, and I'm just saying Mother Nature for the hell of it, is a lot more, no, infinitely more simple. She's like a hairy armpit chick with muddy feet and like a unibrow. It's so simple. It's force and motion, inertia and acceleration, centrifugal divergence, centripetal convergence. Everything is a pressure gradient. What's the difference between ice, water, and steam? Well, they're different pressure gradient modalities of one and the same thing. Water! What's the difference between so-called gravity, so-called magnetism, dielectricity? It's all the same thing. Fundamentally, the explanation of both is reducible to the conjugate geometry of force and motion, inertia, and acceleration, or respectively the geometries of the torus and the hyperboloid, both of which are the negative image of one another, which, by the way, form the perfect cross. The hyperboloid and the torus. One sits 90 degrees to the other. The negative image of the torus is the hyperboloid. The negative image of the hyperboloid is the torus. It is that goddamn simple. Excuse my language. Mother Nature is that simple. If I'm lying, I'm dying. If I could assure you of one thing in this life, if I assure nobody of nothing, it is that it is that damn simple. People that are trying to complicate Mother Nature and cosmic mechanics are both assholes and educated idiots. They're mental midget, knuckle-dragging, subhuman retards. These are the same people that Tesla called, he said they wander through equation after equation. I forget exact words. You can look up the quote. They make the simple complicated. They take the divine and they make it profane. That's the only thing they're profane. They're kind of like the dumb redneck at the beautiful spring pond where like manatees are swimming, and he's flicking cigarette butts and he unzips his fly and takes a piss in the waters. That's what academics are like. Like if Mother Nature were a beautiful spring with beautiful fish and manatees and all sorts of stuff, these academics are like the redneck goober, the drunk redneck goober, throwing his beer can in the spring, unzipping his fly, taking a piss on the manatee, and then, flicking his cigarette butts.